different asset classes. So real estate, commodities, bonds, stocks, mutual funds, etc. So a lot of the concepts that we talk about in this class might go very, very deep and very fast, and hopefully we don't lose you guys. But if you guys have any questions, this is free form. So please, please, please ask any questions that you might have as we go on. But I know I was having a conversation with some people from the last class, and they were like, "Oh, when you said this, we didn't understand." I'm like, for me, I understand because I've been living this, and part of it is that I've seen these slides, so I might be trying to rush through some things. But if they're really concepts that you guys are not understanding, please ask us, because that's what this forum is, so that we can all gather, we can all learn about the topics and also learn from each other. The other thing I want to encourage is for you guys to participate where there's how would I say it? Not protection. We're all family, so nobody's gonna judge you guys if you say something or if you ask a certain question. So I want to make sure that you guys participate. Feel free to ask as we go along. All right, so what I wanted to do really quick before we jump into Tim's session is just to do a quick review of some of the concepts and some of the things that we talked about last week. So I'm going to ask you guys questions, and hopefully you have some answers for me. So question number 1, what is a good indicator of how hard your money is working for or against you? This is easy.
Interest rate.
There you go, interest. So interest will always tell you how hard your money is working for you. Whenever you're gaining interest in any kind of market, that tells you how hard your money is working for you. Whenever you have credit card bills, etc., that's money working against you, okay? Question number 2, anybody can explain the rule of 72? How long it takes your money to double. So what you do is you take 72, you divide it by your effective interest rate, and the outcome is the number of years it's going to take for your money to double. Okay, that's the rule of 72. All right, number 3. Anybody in here can talk about the affordability test? This is the affordability test is literally Loretta's test that I use to determine if I can afford it. It's not an industry standard or an industry practice. But anybody know how I define how you can tell if you can afford an asset or not?
Your cash minus the value of the asset must be greater than the amount of money in your emergency fund.
That's correct. So you take however much you have in cash, you subtract it by the asset you want to purchase, and this is only for depreciating assets, okay? Not for appreciating assets, for depreciating assets. So you take the cash, you subtract it by the amount or how much it's going to cost you for the depreciating asset, and that needs to be greater than how much you have in your emergency fund. So your emergency fund should have 3 to 6 months. So it needs to be greater than 3 to 6 months, okay? All right. Oh, I just answered that. How much should your emergency fund have? So 3 to 6 months you should have on hand at all times. Next question, how can you gauge how much you need for retirement? Who remembers the rule we talked about? Anyone?
It's like 3 times something? I can't remember.
The 4% rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 4% rule. So if you take however much you have in your retirement account, what they say is that you can only withdraw 4% to make sure you don't run out of money. So let's say at the end of retirement, you have $1 million in your retirement account. You can withdraw 4% of that, or $40,000 every single year if you don't want your money to run out, okay? One of the things, just to go back to the affordability test, because one of the questions that some people have is that if I need something, like it's an emergency need, but I don't have enough money to cover it, can I still get it? If you need it, and I'm talking about a need, I'm not going to say I need new shoes. I have shoes on my feet, right? That's not a need. But if I have something that happens, let's say my refrigerator breaks down, I need a refrigerator, right? So if in those cases, I mean, life happens, you have to pay for that expense. But when I'm talking about the affordability test, it's really applying to depreciating assets that are not needs, they're wants, okay? All right, What is a tax advantaged account? Anybody remember?
Is it like a 401k or something?
Huh?
Or like a 401k?
Yes.
You're tax deferred?
So tax deferred, remember with retirement accounts, whether you pay taxes at the beginning or pay taxes at the end, you're still going to pay taxes, right? The tax advantage part just means that your money grows tax-free. So education accounts like 529s and ESAs are actually tax advantaged accounts, and so are retirement accounts. So your 401k, your IRAs, all of those are also tax advantage accounts, okay? All right, we're good so far? I haven't lost anybody? No questions? All right, fantastic. Okay, what is the recommended amounts? And this again is this is not an industry standard. This is more of Loretta's recommendations. What is the recommended amount that you should put in your retirement account?
Bare minimum what your employer will match.
Yes, that's what they tell you, right? So that one is a hard rule. But Loretta's rule was, I recommend that you put at least 10 to 15%, okay? So the hard rule is that if your employer matches, you need to put at least that much. Otherwise, you're just leaving money on the table. But my recommendation is that you put over that much and you put at least or about 10 to 15%. And remember, if you can't afford 10 to 15% today, that's understandable, right? What you can do is you can start with your employer match, and whenever you get raises, instead of just realizing that money on the back end, you take the percentage of the raise and you add that into your retirement account. That's a good way of automating and really starting to get into the habit of building retirement savings. And then the next question, if you don't have a 401k account, what can you contribute to instead?
An IRA.
Yes, an IRA. So every person under the sound of my voice, whether you work for corporate America or not, can contribute to some form of retirement account, whether it's a 401k or an IRA. If you don't have if you're not working for a company that gives 401k, you still can contribute to your retirement accounts via IRAs. All right? Okay. When saving for college, what are the 3 popular options?
529, ESA, and I'm just reading off my notes.
I can tell. That's correct. So a 529 account, an ESA account, and also a UTMA/UGMA. All right. One of the things that we didn't touch on last week, and I didn't tell you, but I'm going to put him on the spot a little bit. I wanted him to talk about, so the first time we had this class, he talked about something that they do in their family for whenever there is a new kid, or a new kid. A new kid is here. Sorry. Whenever you have a son or daughter, and that is to purchase property for that kid and have that property cash flow, and then use some of the money that the property is cash flowing and put that into, start to use that as savings for the child. I thought that was actually a great idea for building up college savings for kids. So if you don't mind touching into that, that would be great. So this is all I have. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Tim. You guys got to forgive me. I don't know how to use Apple's laptops. Escape. There we go. I'm going to turn it over to Tim. And minimize. There we go. Real estate investing.
I appreciate it. Hey, can we,
To put it on?
yeah, hopefully.
Extra stuff
Okay,
in your pocket.
awesome.
You preach at your Miss Church, right?
No, I have more of the young people on the small side, the kitchen. Hey, let me make sure I know how to work this. Oh, there you go. Hey, good morning, everyone. Like Loretta said, my name is Tim Ebie. This is my company, Ebie Group LLC. We have different business entities under Ebie Group LLC. We have, and I'll get to, we have about 3 different kind of real estate, variety of companies. First of all, I want to just thank Loretta, Pastor Falu, and his wife for giving us the opportunity to kind of share this because this information is key. I don't know about most of you guys. We didn't necessarily come from a household that financial literacy was taught, right? Does that make sense? Where you really understand how money works. Do you want me to pause? No. Oh, okay. I thought you were. No. Okay, it's okay. Sorry. No, I thought he was saying, tell me to pause. It's okay. Yeah, so, but sorry about that. Like I was saying, I didn't come from a household where financial literacy was taught. So we started learning a lot of these things, these concepts, right, about money. That's why I like what Loretta is doing. Because a lot of times, if you don't understand how money works, you can make a lot of money, but you can also blow a lot of money, right? You make 100, people say I make 6 figures. You can be a professional athlete or anything like that, but you're still blowing the money because you don't understand how money works, right? So one thing I want to do is, as we jump into this, right, I'll tell you guys my story, how I got into kind of real estate. So you guys kind of know, I'm not just up here talking about case studies, something I read in a book, which is cool, but these are things I've actually done and we actually do today, right? As far as real estate investing. Now, you have a lot of times, there are people that are realtors, right? I'm not a realtor. A lot of times people will ask me, hey, are you a realtor? I think when they hear about real estate investing, I'm not a realtor, I don't have a license, but you don't need it. Matter of fact, I can tell you a lot of times if you don't have a license, it actually gives you more ability to even do more, right, from an investing standpoint. So we're talking about specifically investing in real estate, right? And the key word here is off-cycle. Sorry, not off-cycle, but off-market, right? A lot of times people hear about, deals on MLS. Everybody goes to MLS to find deals. We don't, some people can find deals on MLS, but primarily we try to stay off-market. These are deals you've never heard about. You don't know they exist, but they're out there, right? You just have to.
Sorry, what is MLS?
Oh, sorry, no, that's a good point. Yeah, thank you for that. It's the multiple listing service, where they list properties that are actually like a realtor has a property that needs to be sold, right? They'll list it on the multiple listing service, right? So you have to be licensed to be able to access that website. So in Houston or in Texas, I think it's HAR.com. Well, you can go to HAR.com, you can see all the properties that, if they want to sell this building or you want to sell a house in somewhere in Sugar Land, right, you get a realtor and they'll list it on there, and that opens it up to the public, right? So a lot of people, when they're looking for deals, they'll just go on the MLS or the HAR if you're in Houston.
You have to have a license to access that, is that what you're saying?
Right, we have to have a license to be able to list the property on there.
Oh, list the property.
Right, like anyone can go access it, it's public.
So it's just basically like housing on clearance?
No, it's not it's regular homes, right? Retail price is what I'm getting at.
Oh, okay.
So the retail. So basically, let's say you live in an apartment right now, most people, and then you want to maybe live with your parents, and you want to go look for a new home, right? So what people do is they'll just go online and start looking for homes, and a lot of times one of the first websites that comes up is HAR.com. It's basically public information of all the houses that are for sale at retail price, as in the full value, right? But the key is if you're in real estate investing, just like any other investing, I'm sure Loretta talked about, you want to buy things at a discount. We're talking about investing, not my primary residence. It's my primary residence. No, I don't have a problem paying the full price, right? But HAR is where realtors go and list the properties. And if you're looking for a property, you can go out there and find one. But MLS, thanks for asking that question. If you guys have any other questions, just kind of pause me, raise your hand. So we're talking about primarily off-market, which are not on HAR.com. So I'll talk about my story. I'm just going to touch on this for a few minutes, financial foundation, right? Because a lot of times people want to jump into real estate. They're like, oh, Tim, I want to get into real estate. Teach me about it. The biggest question I ask them, like, why? So why real estate? Oh, well, I want to make money. Okay, that's cool, but why? Why real estate, right? Because you can go stocks. You can go invest in Tesla. I heard Tesla stock did crazy pretty recent. I'm not too much into stocks, but I saw it on social media, right? So, people have like all kind of businesses. They have drop shipping, right? So there's so many kind of businesses out there that you can kind of get into, online businesses. So I'm like, why real estate? And the reason I ask is because, in real estate, it's important that you have some kind of identity, what kind of investor you want to be. Are you more going to be like a passive investor? They're looking for like buy and hold assets. In other words, you buy a property and just sit on it for like years and let the property just appreciate and you just kind of maybe get cash flow or things like that. Or you somebody that wants to do what you see on HGTV, which most of it is not necessarily accurate. What you see on HGTV, which is people talk about flipping houses. So in other words, you get big checks. You buy a house that's probably distressed, has a lot of issues, maybe foundational issues. It has roof leaks. The house is a mess. So you come in and buy it at a discount, right? And you put money into it to kind of rehab it or renovate it, and you sell it again now at the retail price You hire a realtor and they list it on MLS for you, right? So you can sell it at full price. Because MLS is where everybody has access to. That's where you have a lot of eyes on it. So you can really sell your property at the high retail price. So an investor, you're in the business to make money, so you're not going to buy something at full price. You need to buy it as discounted as possible. One of my mentors that I follow, he's into commercial real estate, which is apartments. He said number one rule for real estate, people talk about, here, location, location, location. But from an investor standpoint, you're not really necessarily thinking about location, location. From an investor, the rule is wholesale, 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 which is discounted, discounted, discounted. How can I find properties extremely discounted? Because that's how you're going to blow up and make money and wealth, right? You have to buy them at discounted prices. Now, however, I can still show you guys strategies how you can buy properties at full price and still make money at full retail. That's why you learn the strategies. Because we buy properties all the time we'll buy it at the full market price. They want $185,000, we'll buy $185,000. But we make sure we've done our due diligence, we know how to make money on it. And I'm going to talk about that in one of our case studies, where you can have like 3 profit centers, right? You profit off the equity, the cash flow, and the down payment. So I'll show you guys, we'll get to that later. We try to take a break around 10:30, so I'm going to try to go for an hour, take a 10, 15-minute break. Then we'll go for the last second half. And Loretta, can you help me, just in case it gets close to like 10:30, just so I can pause for like a 10-minute break? So part 1 is financial foundation. Part 2 is investment strategies, what I kind of talked about. So you see what I said right there in parentheses? You profit when you buy. And when I heard Robert Kiyosaki, everybody heard of Robert Kiyosaki?
Yeah.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. If you haven't read that book, just write that down. Get it today. Read it today. Sister, get an Audible. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's a must. Because it's going to shift your paradigm on how you see money.
What is that? I didn't get it.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Sorry, it's a book. Yeah, thank you. And I apologize, guys, because like Loretta said, we do it so much. I just throw out acronyms, and I'm assuming everybody knows. So I have to kind of break it down. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The author is Robert Kiyosaki, and I'm going to list it at the end on the books, but it's good to know. So you profit when you buy. Like I said, when you're analyzing a deal. Again, I'm talking from a real estate investing standpoint, since this is an investment workshop, right? You want to profit when you buy. So you want to make sure you're buying a property correctly. You can buy any property, but you can lose money. I have at least, maybe right now, about two deals that we've lost. We haven't technically lost because we still kind of own them, but it's kind of a loss to me. There's no guarantee I'll get my money back because we didn't do proper due diligence. So that's the reality. You're going to lose money if you don't do it right. But after today, you do it right. You'll learn what to do. All right, property types. We talk about cash flow, name of the game, power of leverage. Amir, you talked about that. We're going to talk about deals, how to find deals, how to fund them, how to flip, and how to flow them, cash flow them. Part 3 is case studies. My first deal I ever did, and some things like that. And I'm going to talk about how you can get your first deal, right, if you want to get started. Recommended reading, like I said, the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book. Investment opportunities, ERGE, Ebie Real Estate Group. And my team, I'll talk about my team so you guys can see that it takes a team. Oh, what's up, Jude? That real estate is a team sport. When I met my mentor, actually, let me just kind of jump into it. So here's my story right here. I don't know about you guys. I still have a 9-to-5 job, corporate job, and man, I am, and I'm still restless, right? You guys ever had like restlessness? Anybody? You're just restless, like, man, this job. And if you guys over, does that make sense? So I'm not one of those people that say, oh, 9 to 5 is wrong. No, that's a purpose for everything. But my thing is, I know for me, I was just restless, and I still am. So that's why I do this on the side. So when I married my wife earlier that year in August, May 2017, she's going to come here later, she sent me a link on Instagram because I was looking for some kind of passive income, right? Loretta talked about it last week. Passive where I don't have to work. Not passive that you have to go work and that's not passive. Passive that if I don't work for 6 months a year, first of the month I have the check direct deposit in my account. Does anybody like that lifestyle? Or is it just me? Okay, y'all can just send your money my way if you're not interested. So she sent me a link on Instagram, and it was on online business, like an online business, right? And the guy's name is I can't remember his last name, but he wrote the book, I'll Teach You to Be Rich. right? I can't remember his last name, Remit, but if I get it, I'll remember it. But so I looked up his stuff. I basically took the online course on basically how to set up an online business where you have like, sales funnels, things like that, email marketing, basically, some kind of online business where you don't have to be there. But at the end of the day, it's not as passive as I thought. You still have to do work because you have to keep building your audience, right? In order for them to, sell your product and things like that. So that was cool. But through that time, I was still reading a lot of books. Anyway, I came across the book we're going to talk about later, which is Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And in the book, he just shifts your paradigm, basically, about how you think about money. The key word is not your money working for you. Sorry, not you working for money, but in other words, your money working hard for you, right? That's the concept. So I read his book. I was just turned on to real estate as the main vehicle he talks about, right? There are many different kind of investment vehicles. He talked about the real estate investment vehicle, right? So I started thinking about real estate. I have a couple of friends that have been doing this for years full-time, real estate investing. So I reached out to them and said, hey, man, I see you guys post a lot on social media about your real estate deals. Tell me about this. They explained to me how to get involved, and I was blown away. I didn't know this world existed. I had no clue this real estate world. And a lot of times, most of you probably don't, unless you know someone in it. And when these guys were telling me, I was like, well, most of these guys, they do it full-time. One of them, he was working in Bank of America. He was an IT professional working on the IT side. He left his job. And 4 months later, he's calling me like, hey, Tim, I want to go back to my job. And I was like, man, look, in life, and most of us know this, whenever you start something, a lot of things take time, right? It's a process. I'm like, man, anything in life is going to take a while to get going. But he was very good at what he did as far as real estate investing. So the first 4 months, he wasn't doing good. 4 months later, we talked, I said, just hang in there. 4 months later, he had made $30,000 in a month. $30,000. And after that, he's been doing this since 2012. What's it like, almost 8 years? Full-time. He has a family. His kids are in private school. They live in Richmond, like full-time. So obviously, it works, right? It works. So I talked to him a lot. That's how I kind of got in. So I got in August 2017. Who knows what happened around September 2017? Anybody in Houston? Harvey, very good. So Harvey happens in Houston. That was not my motivation for getting in. I had no idea. It was just a coincidence. I was just getting into real estate. So Harvey happened. There are a lot of flooded homes. You had investors come from all over the country, California, Florida, trying to invest in Houston's real estate because they're trying to buy these flooded homes for cheap, right? Remember I told you wholesale properties with issues? So I got in. I got my first deal in October 2017. I found it on Craigslist. I did not find it on Craigslist. One of the strategies I'll show you guys how to be able to market for these kind of deals. Because there's two things here. There's the real estate investing side and there's a business, right? I run a real estate investment business. You can invest in real estate on the side. You can have a 9-to-5. You can be a teacher, an engineer, whatever. A lot of people do that, and they just invest in real estate, which is fine. But we actually run a real estate business. So we're constantly marketing for deals. Right? So I posted on Craigslist like, hey, I buy houses, things like that. I got a dude, and I'll talk about it. In October of 2017, we didn't close to, actually that's a mistake, that should be January 2018, which was a few months later. And that's because the seller just drug his feet. He was out of town, he worked on an oil rig, blah, blah, blah. We closed about 4 months later. Long story short, we made, and I'll talk about this also in my first case study, made about $4,000. It's something called wholesaling, assignment of contracts. I'll explain that later. So that took about 4 months. 4 months to close my first deal. Now, here comes April 2018. Yeah, that's a mistake. I just got my years wrong. April 2018. 4 months later, I've still only been in real estate for like 6, 7, 8 months. Only did one deal, looking for deals. Remember I said, you're looking for wholesale deals. I run across my mentor, Asian guy, Mr. Nam Nguyen, through a series of events. We met at a hotel at one of these real estate meetings. He sits down, he talks to me, and he breaks down the whole landscape of how the real estate game really works. He's like, Tim, real estate is a team sport, right? And he talks about the power of leverage. How when you leverage, he's like, I'm going to leverage you because you're out there hustling, marketing for deals, and you can leverage something called like private money lenders. Basically, people that have a lot of money. They have a lot of money, they want to invest. He's like, you can leverage the money I have. He had a lot of money, right? And also he had the knowledge of how real estate works, how to negotiate contracts, the team, right? Sales and marketing. So I basically tapped into his network and he tapped into my hunger to find this, and that's how we made a great team. So within the next 6 months, from April 28th to the end of the year, probably did about 15, 20 deals. Remember I told you in the first few months, I did one deal. Once I met a mentor, 6 months later, within that time frame, did about 15 to 20 deals, right? So we're going to talk about that. And that's the importance of when you leverage people, you have someone that can actually show you the way, which is what I'm going to kind of explain today. So we completed about 25 plus deals to date. So right now, here's what we own. We own about 4 rentals, rental properties that are cash flowing. Well, one isn't really cash flowing. That's one of the mistakes. And we have 4 owner finance notes, and I'm going to talk about what a note is. We all know about a note. It's like if you own a home, it's a mortgage note, what the banks do. So you also can be the bank, right? Where you can actually hold the note, you hold the deed of trust or a promissory note, and somebody just pays you every month, just like they pay the bank, right? I read a book. There was in a book, I think it's called The Millionaire Next Door or The Millionaire Mind. There's a reason why in every major city, who owns the tallest buildings in every major city? Who knows? Well, sorta. Yeah, banks and insurance companies. Just think about Chase Towers, World Trade Center, things like that, right? In most major cities, the tallest buildings are owned by banks and insurance companies. There's a reason. We're paying their mortgages. We are. It's cash flow. We're all paying. Every time you have a house, you own this. If you own this, normally the bank is financing it, right? So that's what we do. We just become the bank. We finance and we just sit down and, you just sleep, wake up whenever, and your mortgage comes in, right? But you have to understand how this is done, right?
Tim, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
What then, in that example you just gave, what would be the difference between a rental that's cash flowing and a note? Because isn't it the same kind of concept, or is it not?
No, that's actually a very good question. The main difference is between a rental property that you are renting out to a tenant and owner's finance notes is, one, you own. Like if I have a rental property, I'm the owner. Or my LLC's the owner. I'd rather say if you guys get a rental, put in a limited liability company so you don't get sued, right? Or you protect your asset protection, right? I'm an attorney here, Seriously, it's just smart, entity structuring, right? So rental property is something you own. Owner finance note, I don't own it, right? So if I have a property and I say, okay, look, I have a property, I own it, and you want to buy a property, you probably cannot qualify for a mortgage, traditional mortgage with a lender, because 1 out of 14 Americans cannot qualify for a mortgage, right? Right? There's a whole different world, which is called like people that really can't qualify for traditional mortgages, right? So there's a world that someone has to finance or take care of. So I own a property, free and clear, it's in my name, I own it. I can come to you and say, look, okay, I'll sell it to you on terms. I sell it to you at like 7% interest rate over like 360 months. Right? 360. Notice we say 360 months. We don't say 30 years. Have y'all noticed that when you're buying cars and stuff? It's like 360 months. Okay, yeah, that's 30 years. Do the math, right? It's a long time. 360 years. I say years. No, sorry. 360 months, right? At 7% interest, you pay like $1,500 a month, which you're happy. Most people want to pay $1,500 a month. What else? The terms. $185,000. That's pretty much it. So you get the house now. We go to a real estate title company. A real estate attorney drafts up all the paperwork. You sign. I transfer the deed from my company name or my name to your name, your family. It's your homestead, your main residence. And you move in with your family, you're happy. Because you own a part of the American dream. You would have never been able to own a home because the banks don't want to deal with you. Maybe you're an entrepreneur or business person, right? So it's hard for you to qualify. So you want someone like us. So that's where we begin to service that market also. And we create what's called owner finance notes. That's what the banks do. The banks are not in real estate, but they own notes. They own the notes, right?
So there's a reason why these banks don't want to take the risk. So how do you manage that risk?
Take the risk of owning it?
For financing like people.
Oh, no, that's a good question. That's a very good question. So what you do is you make sure, so that's a very good question. The main thing when you're doing stuff like this, and we'll get into it, is you have to make sure you're qualifying your buyers. You're going to qualify them properly, right? You're going to run like credit checks. The main thing, there's something called Dodd-Frank. He can probably talk a lot more than I can about owner finance notes. There are regulations in place because of 2008 where you have to make sure your buyer or your borrower, because I'm now the lender, your borrower has the ability to pay. You have to make sure they have verified income that they can pay. Because you're not going to put people, you don't want to set people up, which some people do. Like you get in 6 months later, you default, I foreclose, take it back, and do somebody else. So there's laws in place. So the way I protect my risk is, based on answer your question, is what I do is I make sure he has the ability to pay back. Make sure he has W-2 for the last 2 years. He has a pay stub for the last, maybe a month or two, things like that. So once I verify them and I put them through what's called like a residential mortgage loan originator, RMLO, right? I make sure he's good to go, then I put him in one of my homes. The reason the banks don't do it is because the banks, they do things at volume. They're doing a lot and they don't want to take those risks. But us, we can work one-on-one with most people and help them out, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a business. Any business, you're going to take risk. If that makes sense. So to answer, does that kind of answer your question? So that's how we manage our risk, make sure people can pay. But to answer Loretta's question, the difference between a rental and a note is I own rental at the top. With a note, I do not own it. I just hold the note. Because for every real estate property, there's two things. There's something called the deed, which is who own it, the warranty deed, and there's something called the deed of trust, right? Which it has to do with the financing. So,
I have a question. Sorry. Now, on a finance, loans and mortgage, how do you deal where you have, person is not able to pay, life happens and all this. Do you have the power to foreclose like the banks, and how do you deal with this?
right, I mean, and that's a very good question. And that's what I mentioned earlier. You're the bank, and that's why when you have what's called like the deed of trust, and it's recorded with the county. So like if you go on the county, or you can look up, you can actually, if I give you the names of these properties or the addresses, you can look them up at the Harris County Clerk's office. You see all these, they will all come up, right? So there's something called the deed of trust, which gives you the ability to foreclose. That's all, because there's collateral. The property is collateral. That's how you collect back, right? And there's something called a promissory note that the real estate attorney is going to draft up saying, you promise to pay me back this $180,000 over 30 or 60 months. And if you don't, if you default, right, for whatever reason, in Texas, I think you need about 21 days notice. And if they're 3 to 4 months behind, right, the deed of trust gives me the ability legally to foreclose. And I think Texas is a non-judicial state where I don't have to go to court. It's just in the deed of trust, the term saying I can foreclose on you if you stop paying maybe after 3 to 4 months. I take it back. But most lenders don't want to do that because it's expensive. You have to hire a real estate attorney. You might damage the property on your way out because you're slighted. So a lot of times it's in the lender's best interest to work with you the best I can. Because I want my money to keep on cash flowing, my property. Does that make sense? So I'm like, okay, what can I do? And so the good thing, to answer your question, the reason I can work with someone like that the banks don't want to work with, is like I can talk to them and see what's really going on. Maybe hard times came, okay, you know what, okay, that's fine. You can miss this month or two. I can now put it on the end of their term, 360 months, and they can pay me later down the line, and they can maybe miss 1 or 2 payments. Because I can work with them, that's the difference. But if they just have a habit of not paying after a while, lenders or private lenders, right, that own notes, they will foreclose on you. That's how we get some of our deals also. Right? They foreclose and we buy them. Right? So they'll foreclose, and it's just like a bank. We can foreclose, it's legal. Right? You're technically a lender, just like a bank. Okay, so if you're doing an owner finance note, obviously I highly recommend, make sure you go through a title company and you use a real estate attorney, because they're going to draft up all the paperwork to protect you, your business, and also you want to protect them also. You're helping them also. You're not in a business that mess up people's lives.
Are the title companies involved in owner's finance?
You can involve them.
Okay.
Yes, they are.
You
Right?
should involve them.
You want to title companies?
Title company is gonna make sure that they're basically gonna protect you as the lender, by issuing you insurance on the property. So that and they're gonna make sure that the paper trail that you and the buyer are gonna have is absolutely clear, and they kind of serve as a middleman. You hire them and they provide you insurance to protect you, but they also make sure that the paperwork is using standardized forms, so that everything's absolutely clear. It's best practices to use a title company. You don't have to, you want to cut corners, but just like Tim is saying, it's the best practice to use one.
Yeah, thank you so much, Amir. Yeah, Amir is a real estate attorney, as a matter of fact, so it's definitely good having him in the room. If you ever buy a property, I highly recommend you use a title company, because there's a land deal I'm going to show you here. It was out in Wharton, Texas, which is about an hour from Richmond. I tried to close on the deal. It was a land deal. Bought it for it's worth about over $20,000 or more. I ended up settling. Remember I said wholesale? We bought it for about $5,000, 25 cents on the dollar. So, I already have profit built in, and you can build on the house. Crazy. We didn't close on the deal. You know why? Because the lady, when she bought it, out in the country, she was like, out in the country, we don't go with title checks. She bought the property, the land, and had all kind of liens against it. The title was clouded. That's what it's called, clouded title. So I go to my title company, because if I just gave her the $5,000 and walked away, I'm like, oh, I got land. So I tried to close on it. Our escrow officer, the title commitment came back, which is the title search the title company does to make sure the title is clean so they can insure it. Yeah. She's like, hey, look. She listed a long email. Once I saw the email, I was like, oh, God. I mean, we've had deals before where the title comes back muddy, and we worked through it, cleared, Hers was just, it was a mess. It was not even worth it. So she had to go back and find the original owner. This is 1980. Some of them were passed away. I'm just like, for $5,000, it's not worth it. It wasn't worth our time. So I told her, and she kind of knew. And she had a whole bunch of other liens against it. And she had just filed bankruptcy. So it was messy because she never got an original title check done when she purchased it. So now she's stuck with it. And the issue with this is the family that she bought it from, they can come and claim that it's my property. They can do it, and that's why, and if they come and claim it's my property, but when you have title insurance, it protects you. Because the title company insures it, so that's why you want to use the title company. You don't have to, but if you're doing it for a business, it's very wise. Don't come to me. Actually, don't call me. I'll bring him here. He'll help you out. Oh, yeah, there we go. Like I said, don't call me. So whatever I say, don't hold it against me. Don't record this. No, I'm just playing. That's my disclaimer, right? Hey, honestly, I'm not an accountant. I'm not an attorney. This is just Tim's opinion, what I practice. I'm not saying it's right. It's as ethical as possible. It really is, but hey, consult your professionals, really. Consult them. I'm not licensed in anything. We just do deals. We have a whole team that we use people like this. You have to. All right, financial foundation. I'm going to go through this pretty quick. Talk about financial foundation. Understand how money works. Money is currency, right? So always be on the move. Anyone heard of Grant Cardone? Yeah. Most of you heard of Grant Cardone. He's a big-time real estate guy, he's multi-millionaire, blah, blah, blah. One thing is he said cash is trash. Oh, man, what? Cash is trash. Every time it sits in your bank because of what? Inflation, and all kind of things. So you have to find a way to put that money to work. Your money's an employee. Put it to work, let it grow and produce more children. You invest the children, and you put the children to work. You get the grandchildren, you put the grandchildren. You never spend it because it's a seed. Every time you spend that money, you're blowing that seed. It's supposed to be invested to grow and grow and grow. So cash is trash if it's just sitting there. So how can you put that money to work? It's currency. It should always be on the move. I wanted to touch on this real quick, the different types of income, right? There's the earned income, there's portfolio income, and there's passive income. There are three kinds of income as you earn money. And it's important that we understand this. When I'm talking about financial literacy, a lot of times I had no clue what this was. And most of us, if you've read the book Cash Flow Quadrant, which is what I'm going to recommend also, by Robert Kiyosaki, he talks about the cash flow quadrant. There's the left side of the quadrant, which you have employees, right, and self-employed. And on the right side of the quadrant, you have business owners and investors. Most of us are on the left side of the quadrant, not most people I know at least, where you have earned income, where you're actively working for the money. You have to go to work in order to get paid, right? You exchange your time for dollars or pounds or yen, whatever, euros. So your money, so when you're in earned active income, it's the highest taxed. It's the money you actually work very hard for, right? And think about it, the way the United States tax code is written, the harder you work, the more they tax you. Hey, I'm trying to get out of that. I don't want to be a part of that. Think about it. You're the highest taxed, and you work the hardest, earn income. I remember the first time I think I won. I don't mind sharing. I think I was making like $80,000 consulting, and I didn't have a house. And I went to go do my taxes, and the tax lady, she was like, "Hey," I saw the tax I had to pay. She's like, "Man, go get a house ASAP. Your tax liability." So I stopped paying as much taxes. Yeah. The next year I went to go buy a house. Right? I had no clue before that. Right? Because you can't really claim that many people. You don't have a business, so you're making a lot of money, 100,000, 150, but you're paying a lot of taxes on because Sam is eating half of it. How many people like waking up morning and going to work for the government? I really don't, right? Seriously. And the more you understand it gives you the drive to get out because you want to get out of being earned income. There's nothing wrong with it, but you want to find out how can I get out? Or you can have both, right? But what if something happens to you, you can't work for 6 months? your paycheck stops coming in. Your family, your family is in distress, and it becomes a tough situation. So shifting our paradigms. Earned income, exchange your time for money, highest taxed. There's something called portfolio income, which Loretta has been touching on the last weekend. She's going to continue on, which is income from investments, right? It's your portfolio. You have a portfolio of like stocks, bonds. You have the dividends that you get paid out. You have different companies that pay stocks. Sorry, not stocks, that pay dividends, which is one thing I like about stocks. I love dividends and getting them and reinvesting them. Royalties from like books and things like that. Capital gains. Portfolio income is excellent. It's great. I have portfolio income in one of my former jobs, my 401k. I invest in the index funds. I don't have time to be monitoring individual stocks. I just call Loretta, ask for advice. I'm just So I invest in the index funds. I'm sure you already talked about all that. Yeah, they'll talk about that. So index funds, I learned about index funds. I just put my money in there, and she'll talk about that. So portfolio income is excellent. I want to encourage you guys, try to get portfolio income. Invest in stocks, mutual fund, bonds. Add that to your overall portfolio, right? And try to get things that pay you dividends so you can reinvest them, and it just keeps growing and growing. And that's your money working hard for you. Now, the final part is passive when we're talking about real estate. Real estate can be earned or it can be passive, the first and the last one, right? Or you can do portfolio if you have like notes, but I don't want to get too muddy. But passive income, which is the least taxed, which is your money working hard for you. See, the whole idea, what we try to do is, like right now I have 2 appointments. I have an appointment for a mobile home at 2 o'clock. I have another appointment at 4 o'clock in Deer Park. I'm sharing this because I'm working hard to build these passive income assets, right? But the key is I work hard how many times? Once. And I get paid forever. Are you seeing the concept? As opposed to, you got a great job, you're getting paid $250,000 a year, $500,000, $1 million like athletes, who cares? But you have to go work hard for it every day. And I have no interest in doing that every day, right? So our key is I work hard once, and I set up the asset, and I can sit back forever. So I can work hard for hours, no problem. But in my mind, I'm thinking this is going to be long-term wealth. Because I'm driving to Deer Park from Humboldt from the mobile home all the way to Deer Park to get the contract signed. Once I work hard one time, we're setting up for life, for 30 years, right? So that's the idea, right? Work hard one time and get paid forever. Bullet point number 2. So the goal is, how can I convert my earned income, my 9-to-5 money, how can I convert that to passive income? That's your mindset you need to have. How can I'm working hard every day. I wake up, driving traffic, deal with maybe the bosses, the jobs you don't like, your employees, whatever, all this crazy stuff. Nothing wrong with it. But how can I convert that to actual passive income? That's what you need to be thinking of, right? The last point there, the U.S. tax code, like I mentioned earlier, it was designed for businesses and real estate. When they were designing the tax code, the people that pay the least taxes, the most people, they have their own businesses or they're in real estate. That's the name of the game. And I know it because I have a business and I'm in real estate. My business is real estate. So sometimes, like, all our deals, we probably pay no taxes. Who heard about, was it Amazon that didn't pay taxes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about that?
Last year. Because they were a lot of people kept getting on them.
Right.
So they finally did, but I mean, it was like 1% or something like that of their revenue.
But it's legal.
Yeah.
But a lot of times when you don't, and I guarantee people that are complaining were people that have no knowledge.
Yeah.
Don't you complain? They understand the game because it's a game. You have to understand how the game works. Are you on the left side of the court, which is employee and self-employed, or you're on the right side of the court, which is business? Was designed for businesses and for real estate. The last point right there, right? That's what the tax code was designed for. You pay less taxes, you make a lot of money, but you keep a lot of money. You shelter from Uncle Sam, right? That's the name of the game. And if you don't, they'll just take it. That's what they do. It's the honest truth. Let's kind of wrap this up here. Like I mentioned earlier, if you want to get into real estate, if you want to invest in real estate, I keep asking, people come to me all the time, and I hit them right back. If you call me, say real estate, I'm like, okay, why? But why? And the reason I'm asking why, because I want to get your identity, right? And once you begin to explain, you might not understand the terms. You begin to tell them, I'm tired of working hard, blah, blah. Okay, wow. So how can we get you an investor identity? Your investor identity, are you considered more a buy and hold investor for passive income? In other words, when you buy a property, am I thinking I want to sit on it for like 10, 15, 20, 30 years for long-term wealth building and maybe for cash flow? Property, you just collect a check. The other thing I didn't mention when Loretta asked that question, the difference between rentals and notes, the biggest thing is your tenants never call you. You don't have no tenants. So if the roof blows off the house and you're the landlord, who are they going to call at 2 o'clock in the morning? Oh, hey, I have a, oh, very serious. But you got to, by law, there's laws in place for landlord and tenant-landlord laws. You got to make sure your property is okay. It's safe, functional, and clean. But when you have an owner finance note investment, you're the bank. If you're, who owns any home, a townhouse, a condo in here? Anyone? Who you guys do? Anyone? Okay. Um, if anything goes wrong with your home, right? Do you call Bank of America or Wells Fargo? Say my roof blew off. They're like, excuse me? Is that checking? But seriously though, it's the same thing for us with note investment, right? If anything goes wrong with the property I sell to him on a note, he doesn't call me. He go fix it himself. I need to make sure the check is done first, right? So that's note investment, passive income. So there are two other investment identities which is more active. One is called like wholesaling or hoteling, which you're actually working hard for money. It's a real estate strategy. There's nothing wrong with it. I'll talk about that later. And there's fix and flip. You guys know about that. You buy a property that needs to be renovated, fix it up, and resell it. But it's a job because once that property is sold and you get paid, what happens? You have to do it again. You have to do it again. You have to find another property. You have to find another property, and that's how you make your lifestyle, your living. My friend I told you that left his job at Bank of America, he's very much an active investor. He's always grinding. I don't want to grind all the time personally. I don't mind. I kind of try to balance them, but he has to. Oh, and I tell him, hey man, get passive income. He's his cash flow is too slow. Okay, it's an importance of mindset, and that's why and that's why I want to spend time with. I spend time with the foundation because you can jump in real estate and make a lot of money, but those expenses are real, right? So that's why I try to tell people when you have the understanding, okay, well, look, I want long-term income. Yeah, the cash flow might be slow, but I have long-term wealth being built in. And I know if anything happens to me, I have maybe a few assets in place. I don't have to work. I can deed these properties down to my kids, nieces, nephews, things like that. You seen that? So it's a bigger mindset.
Tim, can I ask you a question? For the note investing, I don't know if you're going to get into it in later part of the presentation, as to how you structure it, and if, like, let's say you're holding the note on $185,000 home, like, do you put up that cash up front, or is it something that the bank does? Like, do you get into the financing part of
Oh
it?
yeah, we're going to talk about
Okay,
that. So
perfect.
yeah, that's actually a very good point. Yeah, I didn't get into those details because it can get muddy. If you're doing a wraparound mortgage, which is kind of what you're talking about, I'll definitely say work with somebody who's probably done it or a real estate professional because don't get in trouble. Let me just stop here. But yeah, good question. So I want to use an example. I saw this on Facebook. Just so you guys, so you guys see things just from mindset. Somebody posted this. I follow a lot of people into investing, and he posted it. He was like, "Hey, who loves cash flow?" He talked about it was a 5-unit, fully rented in Galveston County. The gross rents before expenses, right? The gross rents were about $3,400 a month. See that long-term tenants are in place. The PP is the purchase price. It was $177,000 for a 5-unit, right? So one part at the top, he was talking about passive income. At the bottom, he was like, "Oh, do you want to make a passive cash flow and lend to me and I'll buy?" So basically, what he's talking about here is that this gentleman right here that posted it, he was more an active investor, right? And he was also a passive investor. So basically, what he meant is that he came across a deal that he found a deal. He put it on the contract, which we're going to talk about wholesaling and signing contracts. He probably got it at a good price. He's saying 177 the purchase price. He probably got it for, let's say, 140, 130. So he has his money built in. Does that make sense? So what he does, he's kind of trying to resell the contract for a profit of maybe like 30,000. Right? All he did was just put it on the contract paperwork. But he found the deal. And now he's trying to, so it's, in real estate, trying to create a win-win situation. So he knows people love 5 units. I mean, I'll take this, I'll take it. So he knows it, but he said, hey, if you don't want to buy it, what I'll do is, he's like, I'll actively manage it for you. So what he would do is, he will find somebody that has $177,000 in their account. People do have, in the self-directed IRAs or the 401ks, they have money just sitting there, right? Like it's a self-directed, especially because you can use that for things outside of the stock market. Self-directed, you send me the 177, you send him, what he would do would take that money, 177, you guys discuss terms, how much money, how much interest rate do you want on your money? Is it 8%, 9%, 10%? He's like, cool. I want to get paid 10% of my 177,000. He would take that money, he would go buy the property himself, and he would just send you like residual income every month. So you become the passive investor, right? And you now own the note, you become the bank. And he actively manages it for you. So that's what he's talking about. So that's an example between passive and active investment. So let's jump into part 2, which is kind of like the deep dive. We talked about the meats of it. I talked about earlier, profit when you buy, different investment strategies, right? Different property types. Because before we jump into it, let's talk about the different real estate property types. You have residential. When we talk about residential, most of us know about these. You have single family residence. You have duplexes where you have 2 people living, obviously, 2 identical size. You have triplex, you have fourplexes. You have condos and townhouses. These are different residential kind of real estate. You have vacant lots, like I told you the example in Warren, Texas. You have mobile or manufactured home. I just added this recently last night, right? Prior to my newfound discovery, I didn't believe in mobile and manufactured home, but if you love cash flow, those are your new best friends, mobile and manufactured homes. It's a whole different world, right? But the thing about mobile and manufactured homes, right, it's not considered real property. It's considered personal property, just like a car, like a vehicle, right? So you have to know, like if you go to the Harris County Clerk's office, you can find information about it, but it's more under the personal property. It's not considered real estate. It's not really considered real estate.
What's a manufactured home?
Yeah, good point. A manufactured home is, man, that's a very good question.
Like a trailer park or something?
Trailer park, that's the word, thank you.
But isn't it a mobile home?
Yeah, mobile home.
Oh, they're just calling it.
Mobile or manufactured, right.
Sorry.
Prior to 1976 or 1970s, it used to be called mobile homes because they moved them a lot. Now they're manufactured. The technical term is manufactured homes. So mobile, a lot of times, I didn't even know it, but you have what's called like a lot of manufactured or mobile homes or trailer homes. In Sugar Land, on Murphy Road in Stafford, a lot in Humboldt, everywhere. Within a 50 to 60 mile radius of where I live here in Richmond, there are over 520. Mobile home communities where you have like hundreds of homes. You drive like a subdivision.
What's the attraction?
Affordable housing. It's very cheap. And that's why your cash and cash return, if you invest in them, is crazy. I'm going to show you an example of one we got. 600% return on investment. 600%. Stock market, everybody 600% in stock. But you see the idea of your money working hard for you? That money's working very hard. That's good employee. I love that guy. I'm just playing. But seriously, we'll talk about this. I just learned about these recently, right? And we'll talk about it. And if you guys are interested, I can refer you to the guy that mentors me, and you can talk to him. So different kind of residential. You have commercial. We're beginning to try to dab into commercial real estate, which has to do like apartments. You have multifamily. And from a lender standpoint, a multifamily property is anything that's 5 units or more, from a lender standpoint. If it's under 5 units, notice I put it under residential, or fourplex, or duplex. Some people say, oh, it's a multifamily. It's not really, it's multifamily, multiple families, but technically from a lender standpoint, if it's more than 5 units, it's more considered commercial real estate. If you call a lender and you say I have a 5-unit building, they'll transfer you to their commercial department because you need a commercial loan. You got a question? No. Oh, okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Mm-hmm. That's okay.
It's interesting. Are there really like duplexes and triplexes here in the Houston area? Because I know they're really popular on the East Coast, but I haven't seen a lot or seen them here.
Yeah, they are. But you're right. They're not as popular here, but they definitely are. Like I said, if you go to har.com, or even go to Zillow, right? Zillow, you go to Redfin or Realtor.com. There are a lot of duplexes, but a lot of them are like going to be. You're going to find a lot of majority are probably going to find duplexes, triplex, especially fourplex. You're going to find them like inside the loop. Like in the 3rd Ward area, 5th Ward, there's a lot of duplexes, triplex, Midtown. And they're great for Airbnb. If you guys are into like short-term rentals, they're great for Airbnb. But yeah, they are a lot of duplex and triplexes. But they're limited. They're not that many. I think in Harris County, we did some research on the triplex. I think there are like maybe over 500. So there's not that many compared to like single family, which are like hundreds of thousands. Any other questions?
Yeah, so the 5 or more, is that state to state?
Yes, for most, yeah, normally across the board. Most lenders, at least 5 units or more is considered multifamily. From a loan standpoint, we're trying to get like a loan. Because a lot of times, I mean, unless you have the cash, you're probably going to get like a bank financing.
Yeah, what I meant is that is the regulations, you know, does it differ from different states?
Yeah,
In Texas right now, Louisiana, in Louisiana, it's two or more. If it's 2 or more people, it's usually multifamily. The investors, I mean the banks.
Oh, the bank, okay.
Yeah, the
Okay.
banks consider you not necessarily commercial, but they just charge you a higher origination fee.
A duplex, okay. Yeah, so I think, no, that's a good point, right? Yeah, every state is definitely different from a law perspective. And at the same time, every bank is different, the way the terms they might offer you. So I mean, it's a good point. I don't deal in Louisiana, so I have no clue.
Yeah.
And that's why people talk to me. I have on social media, I have a lot of people reach out. I can give them strategies, but I say go look for somebody local that does deals there. Because there's too many laws in place. In California, it's crazy. You know, I heard something about a law, some California senators or lawmakers are trying to force landlords to sell their properties. I'm like, I stay out of California, right? But Texas, I deal in Texas, and I'm concerned about Texas. But now, thank you for bringing that up. Good point. Mixed use is, you have apartments at the top, and at the bottom level is like commercial properties, like nail shops and hair salons. That's called mixed use. And mobile home parks, what I said, mobile home communities. So my mentor, he owns a mobile home park. And what these guys, when you own a mobile home park, you can have a mobile home park that maybe has like 100 or 300 mobile home, and you have the land. So when people have their mobile manufactured home, you come and you park your home on the land. Does that make sense? And these guys own the land. So what they do is they charge you what's called a monthly lot rent or lease rent, or it's called pad rent or site rent, right? It's basically the McDonald's model. You see the movie Founders? How McDonald's make their money? Okay, write down Founders. Watch the movie Founders. McDonald's. I think it's on Netflix. The movie Founders. So the way McDonald's makes their money, McDonald's is in the real estate game, not necessarily the hamburger game. So what they pretty much do is when they franchise to you, you have to pay a lease. And normally they might be like a 20 or 30, 25-year lease that you're paying them monthly on the lease because McDonald's owns the land where that McDonald's franchise sits. So there's a McDonald's real estate corporation where they make a lot of their money. That's how they make majority of their money. So this is what these mobile home park owners do is they own the park, and if I have 300 lots and you come and put your mobile home because you need someone to park the home, right? And each lot I'm charging maybe $300 to $500. You do the math on each lot. You do the math. So I want to get one. Why? Passive income. Passive income. I'm just collecting. No maintenance. Anything goes wrong with their trailer or their mobile homes, they don't call me. It's their problem. It's their house. I don't own them. So different ways you can make passive income. So mobile home parks, I recently added them when I learned about that. That's what my mentor does. He has quite a few parks.
How does zoning work for that? Like as far as zoning for...
So that's a good question. So zoning, so very good question. Think about mobile home parks. I mean, these parks are already zoned by the city, right? They have the permits to own these homes, mobile home parks. So some of them are owned by like corporations, and some of them are privately owned. So those are already zoned to be mobile home parks with the county. Now, I think what you're really talking about is you can have a mobile home, and the reason I wanted to get the land in Wharton, Texas, is because it's already been zoned for like residential, right? And all my neighbors, potential neighbors, I would have been neighbors, most of them had mobile homes. So my goal was I was going to own the land and have people park their homes, and I just collect maybe $300 to $500 each on each one. That would have been maybe $6,000 to $1,000 cash flow. Don't ever call me. I just pay the taxes. Taxes are pretty cheap. So, but that area was already zoned residential. Right, I still needed to get permits with the local zoning and permit office in the county to make sure I get the right permits for them to hook up their mobile homes. But the bottom line, from a zoning standpoint, you can either own a mobile home park, or some people, you might drive around some areas where you might see some manufactured homes. They might not be in a subdivision, but they might be on private land. So you might have private land. It doesn't have to be in a park. You can just own a land. As long as it's zoned for residential, like you're saying, you can just buy a mobile home, affordable living, cheap, maybe 40 grand, 30 grand, and park your home on your own land right now. So now that it's no more personal property, it becomes real property. And the bank will finance that because the bank is thinking about collateral, which is the land. Because they can care less about the collateral of the mobile home. It doesn't really make as much sense. So banks are interested in the land. If you default, they can take that land back, and they'll just move your home away. We love banks, but just move your home away. So there's mobile homes in parks, and there's also mobile homes on private land. It's important to know that also, okay? And if it's on private land, a lot of times there might be two titles. There might be a title for the trailer, and there might be a title for the land itself. But a lot of times, what people do is they combine and make them like one title. So private. If you find a mobile home on private land, somebody wants to sell, it's a lot more value because of the land. It's considered real property. Office and medical, like we're in an office building. Retail, hospitals, raw land, industrial, like self-storage. The guy that I look up to, and from an apartment standpoint, he got into self-storage. Same thing, cash flow. The tenants will never call you, right? Of course, you have to maintain it, but the cash flow is ridiculous. So there's so many different parts of real estate. One thing one of my mentors or a seminar I went to, they said real estate is like it's a mile long. There are a lot of parts to it. It might not necessarily be deep, which it can be, but it's a lot of different parts. So somebody can be involved in real estate. All they do is focus on condos and townhouses. That's it. Somebody can just do mobile homes. Some people can do single family. Some people can just do retail like this and office spaces. Different kind of real estate niches. Are you seeing why I said earlier when you want to get in, I say why? Where do you want to get into? Some people want to do Airbnb and short-term rentals. Different niches, right? So, and you can be involved in several, but it's important to kind of know what kind of identity that you are in. Let's see here. Sorry for the small print, but here are a few investment strategies. I can send you guys a slide if you want to look at this later. I'm sorry?
That'd be great.
Yeah. Sorry.
If you guys please sign in, because this is how we have your email addresses, so if you haven't gotten a chance to, please do.
Yeah, I'll send you the slide because I know this is small.
Hey, Tim. Yeah, how do you classify RV packs?
A what?
RV packs.
RV. Oh yeah, same thing, right? Same thing, right? Mobile homes, because a lot of mobile home parks, they might be mobile home and RV parks. It's the same thing. RV people, they have to park the RV. They pay them fee for like maybe $50 a month till they move out, things like that. $50 a day, perhaps. Pardon me. It's the same thing, same concept. So like I mentioned, with real estate investment strategy, and now these are different strategies, right? And if you talk, is anybody a realtor in here? Anybody has a license? Okay, your dad. Okay. So when you go to real estate, like if you get your license, a lot of times, and I haven't gone through, but a lot of times, they might not necessarily talk about a lot of these strategies. They just tell them from a retail standpoint, selling people's properties, the laws around it, contracts, things like that. So if you talk to a lot of realtors, not all, but sometimes not, a lot of realtors don't really even have idea these strategies exist. Right? So when we deal with a lot of people, our thing is we come in from an investment standpoint business. The way we make our deals is we look for problems to solve. And we're going to talk, I'll show you guys how you can identify problems. And when we find a problem we know we can help you solve it, you have to now apply the solution, which is one of these strategies. And when a realtor comes in, the realtor's like, oh, just listen on MLS. It doesn't, the realtor can't solve that problem. And we sit there and we educate them, we explain everything to them, we go through their options. So we come in, but if you understand these strategies, you can get them out of almost any mess. Almost any, if you understand the strategies, right? And that's how you make the money, because you get paid by the problems you solve. Here are a few of the strategies. I'm going to highlight, we're going to talk about a few of these. Obviously, I'll get you the slide. Research them on your own or call me and we can discuss. Fix and flip, we talked about it. Buy and hold rentals. You have assignment of contract. I'm going to explain that later, so let's keep going. Hoteling. The hoteling model is, we'll explain that later. Let's keep going. Lease options. Lease options in Texas, some people say it's illegal, but it's not illegal if you know what you're doing it correctly. But lease options is a real estate investment strategy. The good thing about lease options, a lot of times if you have people on the MLS or the multiple listing service or hard.com, they might have a hard time selling a property. It's $300,000. You can't get nobody to buy it. We can help you solve your problem. How so? And we explain the lease option. So basically what we do is we find what's considered like a tenant buyer. Obviously from the law standpoint, they have to make sure they're current on the mortgage, right? Because Texas has a lot of regulations in place from a lease option because people were getting screwed back in the day. So what we do is we come in, we'll find a tenant buyer, and we'll tell them, hey, look, we'll put a tenant buyer in there for like 12 months. How much is your monthly payment? Oh, $1,800 a month. Okay, cool. They'll pay you $2,000 a month for 12 months. You're making cash flow First of all, you're already paying a mortgage in California. They have a $300,000 property in Texas sitting there, paid $1,800 a month. We come in and say, look, we can solve the problem. We'll put a tenant buyer in there. They'll pay you $2,000 a month, which is so you get cash flow of $200 each month. They'll be responsible for all the repairs. You're really excited now. And what we'll do is throughout that 12-month term, lease term, what we'll do is we'll work with them to help them fix their credit. And we pretty much guarantee at the end of the term, they'll be able to qualify for a mortgage. So you solve that problem.
So the tenant will be able to qualify for the mortgage.
And they'll eventually buy it now. So now you probably sitting there listed, you were bleeding $1,800 a month. We come in there, put what's called a tenant buy in there. You know, they give you down payment. Let's say normally it's close to 5%. So whatever 5% of it's $300,000, which is like what, 15K or something. They'll put that money down. You might get a piece of that as the owner. We'll keep a piece. That's our fee. But you don't have to worry about.
Where do you make the money?
Right. That's our fee when they put the down payment. Part of that 5%. They'll put the money down. We'll keep a part of it. We'll give the owner some part of it, so they're happy. They get cash flow, and at the end of 12 months, their property is sold. Right? Because the person's going to qualify within that 12-month term, and they'll be able to buy the property. So that's the way you solve the problem.
So what's kind of like the process of like for the 12 months? How do you prepare them? Can you kind of?
No, it's a good point. So what we do is we have companies. I haven't done any of these yet, but I have my partners. We have people we work with that do these. So they have companies that they'll work with them. You work with like these credit repair companies, right? You work with credit repair companies. You'll be working with a loan officer throughout the whole time to make sure they're getting ready to be qualified. So so from day one, we already have the tenant buyers pre-qualified, right? And we know they're going to be able to qualify within 12 months. They just probably need to get their credit together. And as they're working with a loan officer, the loan officer is telling them what they need to do to make sure they can qualify in 12 months to buy it. So that's pretty much the way it works. So there's a team in place.
My question is that if you told the seller that, okay, we're bringing a tenant buyer for this much time, and you're hoping that their credit will be fixed by that time. Supposing that credit is not fixed.
Well, no, that's a good question. That's a good question. So, and thank you. I actually forgot that point. So you notice it's called lease option. It's a lease. They're signing a lease. Think about the problem you're solving. They could not sell the property, right? So somebody's taking over their mortgage. They're leasing it out now, and it's called a lease with the option to buy. So a lot of times within that 12-month term, they might have like within 6 months, they now go ahead and exercise their option, saying I'm going to buy it if they're able to qualify. If they're not able to qualify, they don't have to exercise the option. They can just maybe extend the lease, right? But they lose their down payment. So a lot of times before people get in, they know they're going to be able to qualify. That's the secret. A lot of times, because when we're putting people in there, we're working with them. Our job is we're making sure we're putting people that are going to qualify. It's rare that they don't qualify. You're not just putting anybody in there, right?
And then do you pre-negotiate the purchase price at the beginning of the lease term, so at the end of it, the purchase price stays the same?
It stays the same. Purchase price is not going to be the same. Everything is negotiated. So when you're doing the lease, there's two contracts. There's a lease contract and there's going to be an option contract. If you exercise your option, the contract is already drawn up, what the purchase price is going to be. And part of the monthly rent you're paying, that $20 cash flow the landlord is getting, you're going to have credit towards their purchase price at the end. They're going to give you credit. So let's say it was $300,000, you might end up being, your sales price might end up being like maybe $280,000. So it's at the end of the day, it's a win-win for both parties and for us, the middlemen. And that's where wholesaling comes in. Somebody once said that if you look at most companies that make the most money, and I didn't know about that, they were like, these are companies that are middleman companies. Amazon. A lot of times people don't own no products, right? They're the middlemen. ExxonMobil, right? So you think about these big companies that are the Airbnb, they're the middlemen, they make the most money. Active income, if it's a business, it can be passive or active, right? But so what we do a lot of time, we're the middlemen. Our risk is pretty much minimal or low or non-existent. We just kind of facilitate the transaction. Why? Because we have the knowledge and investment strategies, okay? So that's lease option. There's something called a homestead strategy. If you have a house, you want to know about the homestead strategy. I'm going to talk about that later.
Question.
Sure.
I know people who bought houses with no down payment.
Right.
I think that's a good thing to do.
That's actually a very good question. No down payment, a lot of times it depends because you have some kind of loans that are called like VA loans, veterans. So in order for them to qualify for the veteran loan, a lot of times, most veteran loans, It's like 0 to like 3%, very low. But the issue with no down payment, there's nothing wrong. You can do no down payment. The issue with no down payment is, think about it, because of human psychology, if you don't put anything down, you have a high likelihood that you're going to foreclose. It's actually a very high likelihood because there's no skin in the game. That's why banks, a lot of times, they want you to put money down because you're more vested to make sure you keep the property. But yeah,
Is the interest higher for them?
no, it can be the regular interest. It can be regular term, especially if it's through a bank, right? It can be a regular, and that's what caused issues like in 2008, right? You're qualifying a lot of people that really shouldn't qualify for homes. They're putting them in homes, right? 0 down. Interest rate is probably pretty good, 3 to 5%. I think that's decent. Decent interest rates, but a lot of times they probably shouldn't be in the home because here's what Dave Ramsey said one time. Broke people should not own homes. If you have no money to put down, you probably shouldn't even be in that home, right? You need to put money down. You need to have a skin in the game. A lot of times you're right. If you don't put money down, most times the lender will probably give you a higher interest rate because their risk is more, right? So they're going to charge higher interest rate. So the thing is, the way to get the best homes, I'm not a realtor, but what I've seen is, oh, go ahead, please.
One of the challenges back in 2008 was that they were not just giving out loans without no down payment, they were giving 103% loans. What that means is that you're not putting money down, but when you got to the table, you were collecting money.
That's crazy.
So folks, there were people, I am telling you guys, there were people who even closed on homes who never made one payment. They just couldn't afford it. Now, the purpose of the 3% was to help them to buy their furnitures and the home was free and now take money. It was bad. It was really bad.
Right, and you're going to default, right? Like we're going to talk about, 90% of our deals come from pre-foreclosures, people that are about to be foreclosed. A lot of times, we hear, once they say VA loan, I know more than likely they put money down.
There's a few exceptions, though. This is kind of an aside. If they know you have income guarantee, so they give out a lot of
Good point.
physician loans.
Very good point.
With 0 or very minimal down payment.
No, you're very right. Yeah,
so it
right.
depends on the income as well.
Right, that's a good point. At the end of the day, you're right. That's definitely a good point. At the end of the day, the issue is when someone doesn't put, and it has nothing to do with real estate. It can be anything. If someone has no skin in the game, no investment, the issue is it's easier for them to walk. There's no money out of your pocket. You just walk. So that's the issue. That's the risk, right? With 0 down. So the best ways to qualify for the best loans, I think it's 740 credit score. You want to at least have 20% down, right? That's how you probably get the best and optimal interest rates. Do we take a break now? You got any like a 10-minute break, 5-10-minute break? Hey, let's take like 5-10-minute break. Then we'll just kind of go to finish this up, part 2.